I'm probably going to start watching Mix in the coming weeks. So before I do that, I want to talk about the other Adachi anime I've seen and just give you my thoughts on those. First up, so I watched Touch, Cross Game, and Miyuki in that order. So let's start with Touch, which is the longest, also the first one I saw, and my personal favorite among those three. And not just that, it is probably my single favorite anime watching experience that I've ever had. Because over the 101 episode run of this series, the fan subbing group that released it, Central Anime, they were releasing an episode pretty much every 4 days consistently over the course of a little bit over a year, which was absolutely perfect because I don't want to watch episodes just once a week. That's a little bit too long. I don't want to binge watch anime either because then I'll forget what I watched just 3 episodes earlier. So I like having just a little bit of time. 4 episodes is pretty much perfect to think about what you just watched, to anticipate what you're going to watch next. It was great. It was absolutely great. So over the course of about a little bit over a year, I was consistently watching one of my favorite anime of all time, and I'm probably, unfortunately, never going to be in that kind of position again. So, Touch, what's it about actually? It has a little bit of everything over the course of 101 episodes. It has, some slice of life moments, and I use that phrase non-ironically. Of course, longtime fans of mine know that I do not like that phrase, especially since Lucky Star and the ensuing anime after that drag the word slice of life through the mud. But I legitimately consider Touch to be a slice of life anime before Lucky Star came out, so I'm willing to use the term at least for that show. It also has like serious sports elements. It's a little bit different than your typical sports anime in that it's not so focused on the sports or like winning the championship, recruiting the team, etc. The sports is really just a vehicle for developing the characters. So it is sports heavy, but I don't consider it to be the same as other sports anime. It has a lot of comedic moments as well. Adachi is a very clever writer. A lot of these episodes, like they'll build up to a really good zinger at the end of the episode. Lots of other comedic stuff too. Also, Adachi is kind of a pervert, so a lot of the comedy is built around that. But in Touch, it's not overdone. It's kind of charming, as opposed to Miyuki, which I'll get into a bit later. Also some very dramatic and serious moments as well, which is why I don't want to give you too many details about this anime because there are major spoilers. So don't read too much about this. Just based on how seriously I'm recommending this anime, just trust me and watch it. Don't read too much into it. So let's talk about the characters just a little bit. The character Tatsuya Uesugi, the main character of the show. One of my favorite characters of all time. Certainly one of my favorite main characters of all time. And that's pretty rare to have a main character this good and this relatable over the course of 101 episodes. Someone who you do not only not get sick of, but absolutely love. This guy, he's like a slacker. He was a kid with a lot of potential, but let it go to waste. A very relatable character in that respect. And I wish I could see more characters like that in other anime. The only other one in a main character role who I can really remember is Kurono from Gantz, who was also a total badass as a kid, but then went downhill ever since. And then he's trying to like become the person who's a potential people saw as a child. Tatsuya is in kind of the same position. Sometimes in sports anime, you have these kinds of characters as side characters only. Characters who were really into the sport when they were younger, but then just gave up, and now they're trying to get back into it and rediscovering their passion. But rarely is this a main character, so I wish I could see more of that. Typically, when you have an anime revolving around a teenage boy, he's a character who only gets better over time and starts in a lower position. Someone who was an average guy or a below average guy, even if they were an above average guy, they grow to even greater heights throughout the series. Not someone who went downhill first and then recovered. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. His twin brother is the exact opposite. He's someone who worked hard, had potential, and realized that potential. So there's some kind of like friendly rivalry going on there. There's the main girl is the girl next door, Minami. She's like the hot girl with a personality. The girl you wish you grew up next to, really sweet girl. And these three are like the basis of the show. There's something of a love triangle between them as well. And there are lots of spoilers here too, so I don't want to get into it any further. But just watch the show. It's that good. Just trust me. a lot of these characters are really interesting. Adachi, like I said before, and I cannot stress this enough, he is a very clever writer. So a lot of these characters are really, they're really interesting and unique, with the asterisk that they are unique unless you look at Adachi's other work, because Adachi loves to copy his characters from one anime to the next, not just in terms of character design, which he very obviously copies from one character. This guy can draw like 5 faces and just reuses them all the time, but he copies the same kind of personality traits as well, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you look at the shows individually. But if you watch a lot of Adachi's stuff, it does get a bit repetitive, so you can't help it there. But yeah, even like the family dog on this show has more charisma and personality than a lot of the slice of life characters you see in this day and age. So I absolutely love some of his characters. A lot of them are really memorable. I really can't say much more. Just go out and watch Touch. So that's enough of Touch for now. Let's talk about Cross Game, which I consider to be Touch light, for a few reasons. First of all, it's half the length of Touch at 50 episodes, which is still fairly long, don't get me wrong, but it's not the length of Touch. Also, well, let me talk a little bit about Touch, go back to that for a second. It's the reason I only gave it a double plus instead of a triple plus is because of the sheer length of the show. The third arc of the show kind of stretched out really long, and it wasn't consistently elite, although it was still very good. The first 2 arcs of the show were about 20 episodes each. Those were triple plus good. I absolutely loved them. If it were just those 2 arcs, I would easily give the show a triple plus. But because the show was so long and it was not consistently great throughout the second half of the show, I had to give the show as a whole double plus. I gave Cross Game a double plus as well, though I never considered giving it a triple plus. Part because it was, I guess, kind of recycled from Touch, but also because I found the main 2 characters to be not as interesting as their counterparts in Touch. The main character is not as interesting as Tatsuya Uesugi, even though he is perfectly interesting in his own right. The main girl is kind of this tsundere girl who is not as cool as Minami, although she's a perfectly fine character, don't get me wrong. Cross Game is very good, double plus good. It has a lot of the same themes as Touch, a lot of the same characters as Touch, tackles a lot of the same topics as Touch, but it's just kind of a copy, and some of the characters aren't as interesting. Also, I kind of wrote a post way back in the day about there being an extremely useless character in this show. If you want to watch it, you can probably figure out who it is on your own. Otherwise, you can read through my archives. Anyway, both of these shows are good. Touch is great. Cross Game is great. You will enjoy both, but is there value to watching both? I don't know. So pick whichever you like better. The one thing I can say about Cross Game being better than Touch is the animation, since it came out like 2 decades later. So it is a prettier show. But yeah, some people like Touch more, some people like Cross Game more. It's your call. Anyway, those are both good, unlike Miyuki. So let's talk about Miyuki. It's the 3rd Adachi show that I watched, and I gotta say, to me, I consider this a blight on Adachi's record. Other people, I don't know what they think. I would say that overall, people do consider Miyuki to be a much worse show than the other 2, like Cross Game and Touch. But this show, unlike many of Adachi's other shows, Adachi loves sports. He has a lot of baseball-themed anime. Sometimes he throws in soccer or boxing or something else, but usually he's all about baseball. Miyuki has nothing to do with sports. Very rare for Adachi. This is basically just a love triangle, like romantic comedy. And the basic premise of the show is that the main character, who's basically just a copy of Tatsuya Uesugi from Touch, except he doesn't have any like sports or academic talents, he's in love with 2 girls named Miyuki. Now, this is a premise that I can deal with, right? I like the game Catherine, for example, and Catherine was about a guy in a love triangle with 2 girls named Catherine. You can work with that. But the problem is who these girls actually are. One girl is like the prettiest girl in school, super popular, very smart, everyone loves her, sweet girl. The other Miyuki is the main character's non-blood related little sister. That's right, the great Adachi, who wrote the legendary, classic, iconic Touch, is the same guy who invented the incest genre of anime. And thanks to him, we have the explosion of incest-themed anime in the modern age. That son of a bitch, Adachi, he had to go and do this. This guy who I respected so much is such a clever writer. he invented the incest anime. So yeah, this was 37 episodes and really not much else going for it except for the like the love comedy aspect. So it does get a little bit boring without like sports to throw in there or drama to throw in there. It is just a romantic comedy. And yeah, you can really see Adachi's perversion shine through here, because it is a little bit obvious from Touch that Adachi is a bit of a pervert, but he is a bit restrained in Touch, and it comes off as kind of charming. Cross Game is a little bit more serious and focused on the sentimental side of the show, so his perversion doesn't really show through in that one. But in Miyuki, it is unleashed, so yeah. I don't have much else to say about it. The show does not go through the end of the manga, so if you do want to know who he ends up choosing in the end, yeah, just read the final chapter of the manga. You probably won't be surprised. But anyway, I can't recommend it. I give it a single tilde. If you are seriously a pervert, then go ahead and watch it. But otherwise, just take a look at Cross Game and Touch. Between those two, like, you know, watch whichever one's more interesting to you. I recommend Touch, but you could watch Cross Game as well. So that's that. 3 Adachi shows. I'm going to be watching my 4th soon, and I'll let you know my thoughts after I'm done with that.